The silent exodus, the vast emptiness of space, stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced windows of the colony ship New Dawn. Commander Sarah. Chun pressed her palm against the cool metal wall as she watched Earth slowly shrink into a pale blue dot behind them. 3 years had passed since the Stellar Collective had delivered their crushing verdict, and now humanity was making its final answer, known through action rather than words. Sarah remembered that terrible day when Ambassador Richardson had returned from the Collective's capital world with news that would change everything. The 12-member Council of Alien Civilizations had deemed humanity too violent, too unpredictable, and too primitive to join their galactic community. Worse than simple rejection, they had imposed a containment field around the entire solar system, trapping humanity like insects in a cosmic jar. But the Collective had made one critical error in their judgment. They had assumed that humanity would simply accept defeat and fade quietly into isolation. They could not have been more wrong. The bridge doors slid open with a soft whisper, and Dr. Marcus Webb entered carrying a tablet displaying streams of data that would have seemed impossible just 5 years earlier. His hair had gone completely gray during the development of Project Exodus, but his eyes still burned with the fierce determination that had driven him to achieve what many thought was purely theoretical science. Sarah, the quantum stealth generators are performing beyond our most optimistic projections, Marcus said, his voice filled with quiet pride. The Collective sensors are detecting nothing but background radiation where we should be. As far as their instruments can tell, we simply don't exist. Sarah nodded, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The quantum stealth technology had been humanity's greatest breakthrough, born from desperation and fueled by the refusal to accept imprisonment. While the aliens congratulated themselves on containing the dangerous humans, Dr. Webb and his team of brilliant scientists had been working day and night to bend the very fabric of space-time to their will. The technology worked by creating a pocket of altered space around each ship, effectively removing them from normal reality for brief periods. To outside observers, the vessels would appear to simply vanish without a trace. It was dangerous, requiring perfect timing and coordination, but it had made the impossible escape from Earth's solar system not just feasible, but completely undetectable. How? Many ships have successfully made the transition? Sarah asked, already knowing the answer would fill her with both joy and heartbreak. 17 colony ships carrying 50,000 people total have now passed beyond the containment field, Marcus replied, checking his tablet again. The generation ships Liberty, Hope's Journey, and New Horizons are all safely established in the Kepler 442 system. The terraforming equipment is already beginning to make the second planet habitable for permanent settlement. Sarah walked to the main navigation console, where Lieutenant Commander Jenny Park was monitoring their course. Jenny had volunteered for this mission, knowing she would never see Earth again, leaving behind elderly parents who were too frail to make the dangerous journey. Her sacrifice, like that of every person aboard, represented humanity's determination to ensure their species would survive and thrive among the stars. "Commander Chun," Jenny called out, her voice steady despite the weight of their situation. "Captain Kim's scout ship Pathfinder is reporting successful establishment of our first mining operation in the Tau Ceti system. They've discovered rare mineral deposits that will accelerate our industrial development by decades." The news brought a smile to Sarah's face. Captain David Kim had been leading the advanced reconnaissance missions for over a year, mapping safe routes through uncharted space and identifying worlds suitable for human colonization. His small, fast ships could make the quantum jumps more easily than the massive colony vessels, and his team had become humanity's eyes and ears in the wider galaxy. Back on Luna Station, Admiral Elena Torres stood in the command center that had become the heart of humanity's greatest operation. Banks of monitors displayed information, that would have sent shockwaves through the stellar collective if they had been able to see it. Fleet positions, colony status reports, resource allocation schedules, and population manifests painted A. Picture of a species that had not merely survived their imprisonment, but had used it as motivation to achieve greatness. Admiral, we're receiving confirmation from Commander Chun, reported Major Lisa Rodriguez, Torres's chief communications officer. The New Dawn has successfully crossed into the Kepler system and is beginning approach to Colony Site Alpha. Passengers are in good health, and spirits remain high. Torres nodded, but her expression remained serious. She carried the weight of knowing that they were walking a tightrope over an abyss. If the collective discovered their escape before enough, humans had been relocated. The results could be catastrophic. The aliens possessed weapons capable of sterilizing entire worlds, and their initial rejection had made clear they viewed humanity as a potential threat to galactic stability. What's the status of the Earth deception protocols? Torres asked, turning to Colonel Frank Martinez, her intelligence chief. Operating perfectly, Mom, Martinez replied with evident satisfaction. The automated systems are maintaining normal traffic patterns between Earth and Mars. Our decoy signals are broadcasting. Routine communications that suggest a defeated population focusing on internal affairs. As far as the collective surveillance can determine, humanity has accepted their containment and is quietly living within the boundaries they set. The deception had been as crucial as the escape technology itself. Sophisticated computer programs generated false communications traffic, while remote-controlled ships maintained the appearance of normal human activity within the solar system. Meanwhile, the real population of Earth had been steadily decreasing as more families volunteered for the dangerous journey to freedom. Torres walked to the massive window that overlooked Earth's blue marble surface. Cities still functioned below, but they were increasingly populated by volunteers who had chosen to stay behind and maintain the illusion of normalcy. These brave souls knew they were sacrificing their own chance at freedom to ensure that millions of others could escape to build new lives among the stars. The hardest part, Torres said quietly to Martinez, is knowing that we're abandoning our home forever. Earth has been humanity's cradle for millions of years, and now we're walking away from it because a group of aliens decided we weren't worthy of their club. Martinez nodded understanding. But Admiral, maybe that's exactly what makes us human. When someone tells us we can't do something, we find a way to do it anyway. When they try to cage us, we learn to fly. The collective thought they were ending humanity's story, but they just gave us the motivation to write a better one. Deep in the Kepler 442 system, the first human colonies were already taking shape on New Terra, a world that offered everything Earth had provided, but without the constraints of alien oversight. Domed cities housed thousands of families. Wow. Automated mining equipment extracted resources that would fuel humanity's expansion. Children who had been born during the journey were taking their first steps on alien soil, representing the first generation of humans who would grow up truly free. Dr. Rachel Foster, the chief terraforming engineer, stood on a hill overlooking the primary settlement as the twin suns of Kepler 442 painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple. The atmosphere processors hummed steadily in the distance, gradually converting the planet's thin atmosphere into something humans could breathe without assistance. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said her assistant, Dr. James Liu, as he joined her. On the hillside. Hard to believe that just 6 months ago, this was an empty world with no signs of life. Rachel smiled, watching children play in the settlement's central park while their parents worked to build a new civilization. The collective wanted to keep us small and contained. They never imagined that rejection would be the catalyst that pushed us to become something greater than we ever could have been within their system. The communication device on Rachel's belt chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Torres, back in the Sol system. The quantum communication network that Dr. Webb had developed allowed instantaneous contact across impossible distances. Another breakthrough that the aliens had deemed beyond primitive human capabilities. "Dr. Foster, this is Admiral Torres," came the familiar voice across the vast gulf of space. "I have excellent news. The final wave of colony ships has just departed Earth. In total, we have successfully relocated 2.5 million people to 12 different star systems. Project Exodus is nearly complete." Rachel felt tears of joy streaming down her face as she looked out over the thriving settlement. Humanity had not merely survived the collective's rejection, they had used it as the foundation for achieving their dreams of expansion among the stars. The aliens had wanted to write the end of humanity's story, but instead, they had provided the opening chapter of humanity's greatest adventure. As the twin suns set behind the mountains of New Terra, Rachel knew that somewhere in the cosmos, the stellar collective continued their routine activities, confident that they had successfully contained the dangerous human species. They had no idea that their greatest mistake was about to be revealed, and that the galaxy was about to discover what humanity was truly capable of when they had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Asterisk. The reckoning 6 months had passed since the last colony ship had vanished from Earth's orbit, and Counselor Vexthara of the Stellar Collective felt a growing unease that she could not shake. As the only member of the ruling council who had advocated for accepting humanity into their galactic community, she had been monitoring the containment situation more closely than her colleagues. What she was discovering in her data analysis filled her with a cold dread that seemed to settle deeper into her crystalline consciousness with each passing day. Vexthara's species, the crystalline synthesis, experienced reality through electromagnetic resonances that allowed them to perceive patterns and anomalies that other species missed entirely. For months, she had been detecting subtle irregularities in the energy signatures coming from the Sol system, deviations so slight that the standard monitoring equipment used by other council species completely overlooked them. Standing in her private observatory aboard the massive space station that served as the collective's capital, Vexthara manipulated her advanced sensors to focus on Earth's solar system. The readings she was receiving defied logical explanation. According to every instrument at her disposal, human activity within the containment field was proceeding exactly as expected. Communications traffic suggested a defeated population turned inward, focusing on rebuilding their society within the confines of their stellar prison, but the energy patterns told a different story entirely. Computer, analyze energy fluctuation patterns in Sol system over the past 12 months, Vexthara commanded, her voice creating harmonic resonances that her technology translated into electronic commands. The holographic display that materialized before her showed a complex web of data streams, but what caught her attention immediately were the gaps. Tiny inconsistencies in the background radiation, momentary spikes in quantum field disturbances, and brief periods where space itself seemed to ripple in ways that suggested massive objects moving through dimensional folds. "Impossible," Vexthara whispered, her crystalline form pulsing with patterns of alarmed recognition. The evidence was undeniable, but it suggested technological capabilities that the collective had determined were centuries beyond human understanding. If her analysis was correct, the humans had not merely accepted their containment. They had developed science advanced enough to escape it completely undetected. The implications terrified her. If humanity possessed quantum manipulation technology, sophisticated enough to fool the collective's most advanced sensors, then everything the Council believed about human capabilities was wrong. More disturbing, it meant that the very act of rejecting and containing humanity had motivated them to achieve scientific breakthroughs that made them potentially more dangerous than the Council had ever imagined. Vexthara activated her priority communication system sending an urgent message to High Arbiter Zelkaros, the ancient being who led the Stellar Collective. Within minutes, an emergency council session had been called, and representatives from all 12 member species were gathering in the great chamber where humanity's fate had been decided 3 years earlier. High Arbiter Zelkaros materialized. In the center of the chamber, his energy form crackling with the accumulated wisdom of millennia, but also betraying signs of irritation at being summoned so abruptly. His species had evolved beyond physical form eons ago, existing as pure consciousness within controlled energy matrices, and he was not accustomed to urgent interruptions of his meditative contemplations. "Counselor Vexthara," Zelkaros intoned, his voice resonating through translation devices that made his words understandable to all species present. "You have called this emergency session with claims of irregularities in the human containment. Explain your concerns immediately." Vexthara moved to the center of the chamber, her crystalline form shifting through spectrum patterns that indicated extreme agitation. "High Arbiter, fellow counselors, I have discovered evidence that suggests our containment of humanity has failed completely. The energy patterns I have detected indicate massive quantum manipulation activities that should be impossible for a species at their technological level. Ambassador Krextal of the Hegemony Alliance, a being whose reptilian features reflected his species' predatory nature, hissed with skeptical annoyance. "Counselor Vexthara, you have always been too sympathetic to the human cause. Our monitoring stations show normal activity within their system. They are behaving exactly as expected, for a defeated species learning to accept their limitations." "That is precisely the problem," Vexthara replied, her resonance frequencies climbing to levels that made several counselors shift uncomfortably. "The patterns are too normal, too consistent, too perfect. Real populations create irregularities, unexpected variations, chaotic elements that cannot be precisely predicted. What we are observing has the mathematical precision of artificial generation." She activated the chamber's holographic projectors, filling the space with three-dimensional representations of the data she had collected. Energy patterns flowed through the air like rivers of light, showing the subtle anomalies that her unique perceptions had detected. To most of the counselors, the displays looked like routine background radiation, but Vexthara's analysis highlighted the microscopic inconsistencies that suggested something far more significant. "Computer, project scenario analysis based on quantum manipulation hypothesis," Vexthara commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing theoretical models of how advanced stealth technology might create exactly the signatures she had been detecting. The models painted a picture that made several counselors gasp in alarm. "If humanity has indeed developed quantum fold technology," Vexthara continued, "they could have been moving massive populations completely undetected for months or even years. Ships entering quantum fold states would appear to simply vanish from normal space-time, leaving only the faintest traces that our standard sensors would interpret as instrument error." High Arbiter Zelkaros' S-energy form began pulsing more rapidly, indicating cognitive processes accelerating to process the implications of Vexthara's analysis. "If your hypothesis is correct, how many humans could have potentially escaped our containment at night?" A question hung in the air like a physical weight. Vexthara manipulated her data displays, running calculations based on the quantum signatures she had detected. The numbers that emerged from her analysis sent shockwaves of alarm through the assembled council. "Based on the frequency and intensity of the quantum disturbances I have detected, combined with estimates of human population distribution and transportation capabilities, I calculate that between 2 and 3 million humans may have successfully escaped our containment field over the past 18 months. The chamber erupted in chaos as counselors from different species began speaking simultaneously, their voices creating a cacophony of alarm, disbelief, and recrimination. Ambassador Krextal's reptilian features contorted with rage, while the energy beings flickered through patterns of agitated confusion. Only High Arbiter Zelkaros remained silent, his consciousness processing the catastrophic implications of a complete containment failure. "Silence," Zelkaros commanded, his voice carrying enough authority to immediately quiet the chamber. "Counselor Vexthara, what evidence would we need to confirm or disprove your hypothesis?" "A direct investigation of the Sol system," Vexthara replied immediately. "Send probe ships equipped with quantum resonance detectors to Earth itself. If humanity has indeed escaped, we will find a largely empty world maintained by automated systems designed to create the illusion of normal population levels. Within hours, a small fleet of the Collective's most advanced reconnaissance vessels was racing toward Earth at maximum velocity. High Arbiter Zelkaros personally commanded the mission, determined to discover the truth about humanity's status. The journey that normally took weeks was completed in days using the Collective's most sophisticated faster-than-light drives. What they found when they arrived at Earth confirmed Vexthara's worst fears and exceeded even her most pessimistic projections. Long-range scans of the planet's surface revealed cities that appeared normal from orbit, but showed no signs of the population densities that should have existed. Communications intercepts revealed routine transmissions, but detailed analysis showed mathematical patterns that indicated artificial generation rather than organic human communication. Most damning of all, when the probe ships attempted to make direct contact with Earth's government, they received responses that followed predictable algorithmic patterns rather than the chaotic unpredictability of genuine human political discourse. "It's all automated," Captain Vex Mora reported to High Arbiter Zelkaros from the lead reconnaissance vessel. "The entire planet is running on sophisticated computer programs designed to simulate normal human activity. Based on our sensor readings, the actual human population remaining on Earth cannot exceed more than 50,000 individuals, most likely volunteers maintaining the deception systems." High Arbiter Zelkaros felt something he had not experienced in centuries of existence: genuine fear. Humanity had not merely escaped their containment, they had done so with such sophistication that the Collective's most advanced monitoring systems had been completely fooled for over a year. If humans could achieve such technological mastery, while under containment pressure, what might they have accomplished once free to operate without restrictions? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. As the Collective's probe fleet orbited Earth, every communication device in their ships simultaneously activated with an incoming transmission. The signal was being broadcast from multiple points throughout the galaxy, indicating a communications network that spanned dozens of star systems. The face that appeared on their screens belonged to Commander Sarah Chun, standing on the bridge of a vessel that incorporated design elements completely unknown to Collective science. Behind her, through the ship's windows, they could see a thriving space station orbiting a planet that pulsed with the lights of massive cities. "Greetings, High Arbiter Zelkaros and members of the Stellar Collective," Sarah began, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who no longer feared the beings who had once held her species' fate in their hands. "I am Commander Sarah Chun, speaking on behalf of humanity's new colonies across 12 star systems. We wanted you to be the first to know that your containment has failed completely, and that humanity has moved far beyond your ability to control or threaten." The transmission continued as Dr. Marcus Webb joined Sarah on screen, carrying technical displays that showed quantum manipulation technology decades ahead of anything the Collective possessed. "We have successfully relocated 2.5 million humans to worlds of our own choosing," Webb explained. "Our quantum fold drives allow us to travel instantly across vast distances, while our stealth technology makes us effectively invisible to your sensors. What you are seeing here is not a request for acceptance into your Collective. but a notification that humanity no longer recognizes your authority over our species. High Arbiter Zelkaros found himself experiencing another unfamiliar emotion: regret. The collective had created the very situation they had feared most by forcing humanity to develop in isolation. Freed from the constraints and limitations of collective oversight, human ingenuity had flourished in ways that made them potentially the most advanced species in the galaxy. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we extend an invitation to any species currently within the collective who desire more freedom than your rigid system allows. Our colonies welcome beings who value innovation, exploration, and the courage to reach beyond established boundaries. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us, but it need not be constrained by the fears and limitations of those who prefer stagnation to growth. The transmission ended, leaving the collective's probe fleet orbiting an empty Earth while contemplating a galaxy that had fundamentally changed. Humanity had not merely escaped their cage, they had transcended it entirely, becoming something greater than the collective had ever imagined possible. Counselor Vex Thara, monitoring the situation from the capital station, felt her crystalline consciousness resonating with patterns of profound satisfaction mixed with sorrow. She had warned her colleagues that underestimating humanity would lead to exactly this outcome. But even she had not anticipated the complete scope of human achievement once freed from artificial constraints. High Arbiter, she transmitted to Zelkaros, humanity has just demonstrated that our greatest mistake was not in rejecting them, but in believing that rejection could contain them. We have not prevented a threat to galactic stability. We have created a new center of power that operates completely outside our influence or control. As the collective's ships slowly departed Earth's orbit, they left behind not just an empty world, but the recognition that the galaxy's balance of power had shifted forever. Humanity had written their own ending to the story the collective had tried to conclude, and their new chapter was being written among stars that had never known the limitations of fear or the boundaries of small thinking. The Council had realized too late that humanity was already gone, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Asterisk.